hit a rock bottom moment in my life. I definitely reached some extreme moments of burnout and some moments where the way I was behaving was clashing with my personal life.
The difficulties that I'm talking about is the resistance to being in the not self. To me, when it's not easy, it's because the universe is trying to get our attention and say, hey, you're not on your life path.
I'm a fourth line, so a lot of my connections are really essential to me. And I was experiencing resistance in not only my career, but my friendships and my relationships.
That resistance is trying to push you back into the direction of your life path, where you can go and find your own challenges, your own struggles, the things that are meant for you.
If you can sit with the pain and the discomfort and the conflict, and you can look deeper, where is it really coming from? This is the key to the answer of the suffering. Like, how is this coming up in my life? And how can I look at this differently? How can I move through this and connect with my truth?
Welcome to the Esoteric Alchemy Podcast, a space where we explore the deeper layers of the human experience. I'm your host, Ben Figueredo, an alchemist, healer, and guide. Join me and my guests to the fringes of science and magic, the depths of the inner world. We'll explore topics related to spirituality, philosophy, sacred geometry, the occult, and more, with the aim of gaining deeper understanding of the reality of the self.
Welcome back, everyone. In this episode, I have the amazing opportunity to sit down with Collyn Rayne. She is a 4/6 splenic projector, and she's actually a certified human design analyst trained under Dr. Lavina Archers. She's also a multidisciplinary artist, and we get to explore in this conversation how those two worlds have really kind of converged for her and what that looks like now in her life, finding out she was a projector and moving away from a lot of the conditioning of her not self, trying to be a manifester or a manifesting generator. So I was just so pleased and surprised by this conversation because the wisdom that she brings and shares in this conversation was just so beautiful and stimulating and healing. And I really think you're going to enjoy it, especially if you're a projector. The things that we get into are just very inspiring. And I know that if you're a projector, you're going to get something out of it. And hopefully that will help you inspire you in your own deconditioning journey. Now, I do want to warn you, we did have some internet connectivity issues, so we got disconnected a couple times, and then we eventually had to switch platforms over to Zoom. So around the 30 to 40-minute mark, I think it is, you'll notice if you're watching the video that the quality drops, and I'm not able to cut back and forth as much between me and her. So it is what it is, and it honestly did not affect the quality of the conversation. I think we did a really good job at holding the continuity of the conversation, even with the interruptions. Just have patience with it. I promise you, it's still an amazing episode. And yeah, it's definitely a testament to my own growth, because in the past, I would have been really frustrated and bothered by it, but what to do? So anyway, enjoy this episode with Collyn Rayne. So I'm excited to talk with Collyn today about her human design journey. So Collyn, welcome.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for being on. Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you and see what your journey is like. You are a fellow projector, splenic projector, 4/6 profile. And yeah, so I'm excited to talk to you about your human design journey. I guess maybe let's start at the beginning. How did human design find you? Where were you at in life, and how did it come to you, or how did you discover it, and what attracted you to it?
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And yes, how was I invited into human design? Um, I was invited in, like actually a lot of people during COVID quarantine. And I'm so grateful for this because I was in a place where it was just perfect timing. I had heard of the system before, but I was clearly not ready. I definitely have a quality of stubbornness, so I wasn't ready to look into it. And I was at a point in my life where like a lot of people, what I had planned was not actualizing. A lot of life plans fell through. I was just getting out of grad school, about to go into the job market and go into my career and profession at the time, which I was graduating with a master's in fine arts in New York City. So I had some galleries lined up, some jobs lined up, and everything just slipped through my fingers. And a lot of people might have accepted the time to rest, but I was very conditioned at the time. So I found myself scrambling to work really hard to still push for my career. I definitely was carrying a lot of conditioning to act more like a manifesting generator at that time. So having everything slip through my fingers and still like pushing myself really hard, I definitely reached some extreme moments of burnout and some moments where the way I was behaving was clashing with my personal life and my relationships, which was a really big part of my life. I'm a fourth line, so a lot of my connections are really essential to me. And I was experiencing resistance in not only my career, but my friendships and my relationships. I had a rock bottom, if you will. I hit a rock bottom moment in my life, and my best friend, she invited me to look up my design and had mentioned it before. So I finally said, all right, let's see it. I'm at a point of real openness. And I think sometimes it takes that. For myself, it took a really big crash to finally open up to some new perspectives. So I'll never forget the moment that I looked at my design and the inner recognition that I experienced when I looked at my design, which at the time I could not read the human design body graph. It was definitely not something I was literate in. And still, I felt a moment of inner recognition that this is something that is going to change my life. This is something that sees something about me that most people in my life had not been able to see. So if a system that is this online generated chart could see something that I know deeply that my friends and family haven't been able to accept, then there's some magic here. There's some real depth here. So it really sparked my interest. And after that, I had to continue forward with my life at the time. So I continued forward with a job I had at the time, which was actually working for a contractor on home remodel. So I was working extremely hard at a very physical labor job. And I started out getting into podcasts because I had the opportunity to have headphones in a lot on that job. So I remember working this very not self job, just listening to all these podcasts and resources, which is why I really love being here on this podcast and this format of sharing with others, because it really was the way that I got introduced before I started my education. So I got into the foundation classes after that because I realized this is something that I'm really resonating with people, with their experiences they're sharing, that they're sharing openly. And it just really touched me. So I started my foundation classes with IHDS. And I remember auditing a class with Amy and John and the human design experience. And I just kind of put the feelers out wherever my interests were. And I got invited from a classmate, a 4-1 projector classmate at IHDS, to check out Lavina. So then I moved my studies over to working with Dr. Lavina Archers. And I joined analyst training, which at the time I was not looking for that. I was looking to become a Live Your Design guide. And it just invited me in, and I started the journey. And it was a four-year journey, but it was incredibly transformative. Just in summary, when I first started out, right after the foundation classes, I wanted to start this work of being a human design guide right away. And I do want to mention that getting into analyst training, I was pleasantly surprised by how much learning and how much introspection and self reflection was involved, that I actually stopped trying to do the work and just started absorbing and just taking in all of the knowledge because I am receptive as well. So it was incredible to learn from someone that I really resonated with and just love her frequency. So I'm very grateful for that experience and to just take that time to absorb as a projector and just digest and absorb and take in. And now I'm at a time upon completion of the program to expand outward and I guess if you will penetrate, right? Penetrate awareness now. So very grateful. So yeah, thank you for inviting me at this time.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you went through that whole journey kind of unexpectedly. Human design came into your life, and then it just you kind of just followed your intuition, would you say, down the path of becoming an analyst. That's really cool.
Definitely, it was not the plan at first. The plan, of course, was to do the foundation classes and just start my business. I actually had a moment of like my intuition knew I wanted to do this and this was the way I was going. And at the time, it was before my Saturn return and I'm a 4/6. So I really wanted the change right away. But at the time, life circumstances and also where I was in my timeline, it wasn't time for that. And it was very hard for me to accept that. So I actually took it took years of me kind of battling with my bitterness and my exhaustion to continue living my life the way that it was around me. And that's something that I find is really important. Like wisdom I would tell to my younger self is to just keep studying, to just keep learning and keep taking in and accepting the timeline, like the current period of discovery that I was in, because I was still very involved with art. I was very involved in working the jobs that I was invited into, which at the time was teaching art classes. And I very badly wanted to quit my job. And I did actually twice. I quit my job and had nothing to fall back on. So this was a part of my journey during the time that I actually really needed for deconditioning work and the time that I needed to learn and digest and integrate this knowledge into how I live my daily life before being able to guide and be present with others. So, yeah, there was a lot there.
Yeah, I think that's very yeah, I think that's very important and very yeah, very cool that you allowed yourself to do that because yeah, I mean, I'm a 1/3, and so I get that, wanting the change and wanting to dive into things right away, and so I've battled with that myself. Did you have any or what I guess, what was your experience like? What was your worldview like before human design? Did you have any spiritual background or religious backgrounds or anything like that that helped you, kinda understand the knowledge or, resonate with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm very grateful to, first of all, with the third line, because I have a six line body. I did go through the third line phase, and I definitely was raised with the perspective. My mom is a scientist, so the perspective on experimentation. Try out your hypotheses, experiment, find out what works, what doesn't work. That was really taught to me at an early age. So I definitely lived that way. And I also got into art very early on. So that was a very experimental process as well, and how I make art and how I teach art. So that was something that really gave me a lot of life philosophy. I got into philosophy. I was open to spirituality. However, I did not grow up in in any particular religion or spiritual practice. So, because my parents are very, very kind of scientific and mathematical, my dad is a software engineer. So, I did not grow up with a lot of creative or spiritual people in my life, except for the ones that I found in books and around me. I did grow up in a town in Boulder, Colorado that had a lot of openness for multicultural experiences. And I do remember at a very young age learning about world religion and world history. So I was always very open and very curious. However, I did not have a specific kind of conditioning there, which I'm finding my own way now. And it left me with, yeah, finding my own path, which is quite perfect for the individuality in me. So I am grateful for that. I am spiritual now.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I ask only because it's just fun to see where people are at when they find human design. And, I mean, it doesn't have to be a particularly spiritual system, right? It's very logical, it's very mechanical, it's very scientific, but it does also have a spiritual, energetic side, and probably more so because most people don't understand that reality is more than what we can see beyond our senses. Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's really cool that
Absolutely.
you're able to now take what you've been given and kind of now just continue to explore and expand without too much conditioning around any of that. How do you feel that that has benefited you in being able to understand the human design system and understand other people through it?
Yeah, I grew up very intuitive and very open to esoteric things, which I think was just perfect. Being in the environment of Boulder is very, it did cultivate that interest for me. So I was very open to these things already. And I do want to add from my practice with art and being in art school, I carried a lot of conditioning, of course, but there were some really beneficial things I got from my master's in art. And one of the most important things that I learned was how to take critique, self-critique, and also how to give critique. And this level of communication and this level of introspection was really beneficial in getting into human design because I had learned I was in grad school in New York City at Parsons. So it was a very conceptual program and it was tough. You put your heart out and you get vulnerable in front of a lot of people and they criticize you. And so I learned a lot about how to not take things so personally and how to kind of stand up for myself and still remain unique because that's kind of what they're teaching you. They're breaking you down in that program and helping you build a voice for yourself. So it was a very important time for me to learn that. And then also going into teaching, I got invited into a teaching position at a local college where I learned how to then guide other people through their own self expression, finding their own voice with a material, with a medium, but expressing their own voice and their own unique self. So that process really helped me learn about my design and my projectorness before I really got deep into human design. And at the time, I really like the transition point, the overlap between human design and my old life, we'll just call it. I really wanted to get out of this art world and this teaching world right away. However, realizing now that that time was meant to be. Like, I was meant to be witnessing myself in that environment through art and through that medium before getting here. I definitely would tell my younger self to just enjoy being in that place because there are no mistakes, right? Like, this is the wisdom of the third line. Like, there are no mistakes. You're not out of alignment because things are taking a while because you think you're in the wrong place. There's something to be gained. There's some learning to be had here that will benefit your process later on. So, like, having that wisdom and being able to accept the present, you know, place of discovery. Like, if we're in an incubator, this is where we're growing and learning and cultivating and being nourished by our experiences. And I had spent a lot of time trying to like do mental gymnastics to like get out of it. So I just want to mention like just that, especially for projectors, you can't just jump out of your life right away because this whole process of integrating the knowledge with your present day life, and your daily life is about awareness as you move through every moment of every day. So you have to be present with it, because that is the gift that we offer as projectors to others, So learning how to be present and learning how to be with yourself so that you can really be available and offer your gifts is essential.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love what you said about the third line because it's totally true, and that's been a process of learning in my own life, telling myself every day, it's like, there aren't mistakes, only discoveries, right? And it's funny actually coming to terms and kind of even reconciling the idea, because I think I certainly did when I first came to human design. And I think a lot of people do. They have this idea that if we're not making the correct decisions, then we're doing something wrong, or like, I'm making a mistake. And while yes, we want to get to that place of making the correct decisions, we can't get there. That experience isn't invalid, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right? Because it's a learning experience to know, okay, that's the incorrect decision. Now I have to contrast it with the correct decision, right? It's all about the juxtaposition. How can we even know what a correct decision is if we haven't made any incorrect decisions? Yeah, so that's really potent. And so you being in that space of your life and just learning, in the art that you were learning from, becoming present, and now you can see, okay, here I am. This was teaching me how to be a projector before I even knew what a projector was. And I think that's so beautiful that you can look back and see that. My channel of abstraction appreciates that, looking back on the past and making sense of it. So maybe let's talk a little bit about your projector experience, because I am interested in that as well. When you first found out you were a projector, I know you had mentioned earlier like you had a lot of conditioning about around being a manifesting generator. So, what was it like, learning about being a projector for the first time? Was there any resistance?
This is such a good one because it goes along with that the acceptance of all parts of us, right? As well as bitterness, the acceptance that bitterness is there as a gift. It's not just a symptom to make go away, right? Like resistance is not a problem, it's a symptom showing us a cause. And what is the cause of that? And for me, so much of that cause of bitterness was pushing for being an artist, being something like creating things and producing. A lot of my conditioning was around how productive you are, how much you output and produce and create in the world, and identifying with some kind of niche, some kind of style. So having an identity, and it was very self-focused and very trying to manifest things and make things happen on my own. There's a lot of just conditioning around the way of approaching art that came from education. I always valued art when I was younger as a way of just channeling what I see in my mind's eye and what I see in the world. And it was never really about what I'm trying to say about myself. So it was very interesting for me to decondition after school, after graduating, everything I had taken on from teachers and from the educational system about how I need to make art and how I need to represent myself in the world. Because at the time when I was in grad school, and even still now, art was very much about who you are, who your identity is, what story you have to share with the world. And that's just not how I made art. I always felt like painting and drawing, and I most recently was doing ceramic sculpture, but in particular, painting was I resonated with visionary artists that were painting something more for the collective than from a place of like a personal story, because the way I would see things would kind of come from a vision. And right now I'm working on human design art. So I know it's coming from me because it's coming through me, but I was more focused on observing the collective, observing nature, observing spirituality. My art practice was meditative and it was spiritual for me. And it was very hard to talk about that in school. not a lot of people could understand where I was coming from. I had a lot of experiences at a very young age that were awakening for me. Substances that were, like, I'll just share openly, but psychedelic substances. And then also, I had an experience with death and with grief before I even started college. So I was very aware and very open to the ways of life and death and afterlife and deeper things that were hard to discuss in the classroom. So that is something that I kind of kept down as the conditioning would just layer on top of me. And taking all of that off was part of this process of recognizing my projectorness and that I don't need to be in the world in such a, like, pressured and stressed and pushing way, because there's so much of culture, the culture that we live in, that values efficiency and productivity. And I found myself regularly in burnout and not in a place to even, like, have the visions and have the experiences that I was having when I was younger. So a lot of the deconditioning work, I actually started out doing inner child work and reparenting before I got into human design. So I still find that with projector deconditioning, I'm oftentimes connecting with my inner child and that version of myself. There's something so raw and innocent, like preconditioned self. Like if you have memories, childhood memories that you connect with, like those feel the most pure to me to kind of just say hello to once in a while. So, yeah, getting back to that place and still how to create as a projector, right? Because I had a lot of doubt and, like, disappointment seeing my projector design and thinking, I'm not here to create. I'm not here to initiate. I'm just here to be there for others. And so finding my own way with art is still a part of my journey right now, how to be creative and create new things as a projector.
Wow. Yeah, it's very powerful. Yeah, I love all that. Touching on the inner child work, that is something that I've done as well. And I think it's something for any type, really, any person, I think is a very powerful method of really deconditioning, connecting back to the earlier versions of ourselves where there was less conditioning, right? When we were more closer to our true self, who we came here to be before all the conditioning got piled on. But yeah, I think as a projector, especially just because we are designed to be conditioned in such a deep way, um, that it is very helpful. I've had some very powerful inner child sessions for my own, that were very powerful for my own healing. So I understand that on a deep level. So through that experience, peeling back the layers, where do you find yourself now and in relating to the projector experience? How are you kind of moving through life? Obviously, waiting is part of the game, not pushing too hard. Uh yeah, where do you find yourself these days?
Something I also want to add to the work that I was getting into, like, it goes along with human design for me, that I just feel I need to mention is I also entered a period with sobriety and a relationship with recovery at the same time. So I kind of went full deep dive with my process, but it's also been a part of where I am today because going into it, it was from a place of guilt and shame, like, I need
Yeah.
to change something about myself. I need to be better. I need to do better. So I got into the inner work. I got into recovery and I also found my design. However, like, years later, it's been 5 years now, I am surprised and delighted to find out that right now I'm in a state where there's absolutely nothing that I want to change about myself to be better or do better or be different. All I needed was to remove everything that was taking me away, that was distracting me. Part of that was substances, but also other things that pull me into the not self or pull me out of alignment with my true self. Those things were distracting me from my truth and were not me. And those were the things that I felt guilt and shame for. I felt guilt and shame for being my design. So part of the process of learning and observing and witnessing my nature and my design has also been falling in love with myself and the way I am meant to show up in this world. It seems I disappeared.
You froze for a
Where did I
minute.
disappear?
You were saying part of the process was learning to love
Sorry about
yourself.
that.
And then, yeah, you froze. That's okay.
Yeah, learning to love yourself, like how to do that. This really is the reward and the treasure of what human design offers because I love how Ra talks about the body graph as a map to your being. And if it's a map, then the X marks the spot would be the treasure, and that would be self love. And that only comes from acceptance. There's a lot of teachings on this of how to get to a place of love, how to get to a place of happiness. Buddhism, like a state of happiness. And all of this, the way that I see it, comes from acceptance. Acceptance of where you are at present and of what you're given. And there's a lot of teachings that tell you, that show you an ascetic lifestyle and to renunciate and to, uh, detach from things and from the world. And I've been doing a lot of my own learning on what attachment is and what that really looks like because through my journey with sobriety, it's really just been about getting back to a state of health and also a state of presence and comfort in my body. And I had experienced a lot of discomfort before, and I did not have the teaching to deal with that. I didn't have uh, a teaching, like a spiritual practice or a physical discipline to teach me how to face the discomfort that I would pick up in all of my openness of my design and just sensing into other people, right? So, what to do with the awareness that we're receiving. And so, through getting comfortable being in my own skin, being in my own body, I started to notice what I was picking up and who it was coming from or where, or is it the collective? Am I sensing into something bigger than myself? And instead of blaming myself, I could start to see beyond that and the gift of that. Right. So if you can sit with the pain and the discomfort and the conflict and whatever is going on in your life that you take as suffering and you can sit with it and you can look deeper. Where is it really coming from? This is the key to the answer of the suffering. Like, how is this coming up in my life? And how can I look at this differently? How can I move through this and connect with my truth? Right. So for me, my truth was my awareness and studying and finding a way to restructure that and to give that to others. And so a lot of my time has been spent on this exact thing, like taking in what I'm learning and what I'm experiencing and connecting with people going through the same things so that in that connection we can find our fulfillment and we can find our way as well as, share something valuable for others to bring people together and show them this light that we all have within us and we're meant to connect so that light just gets brighter. So learning my design has been a process of accepting what I'm given and seeing the beauty and the magic in that and realizing that I'm here to shine a light on other people and the gifts that they have. Sorry, the dog's in the background.
Yeah, well, that's totally fine. I got dogs and airplanes and what to do. It's all just going on, right? Life goes on. Oh, that's so beautiful. I love just watching the stuff, the wisdom pour out of you, your right mind, your receptive mind, and because that's mine too. And so I love it because I just see it in me and just how it comes out. I never quite know what's going to come out. Sometimes I'll just go down a rabbit hole, but it's always like, it always surprises me. Oh, wow. Look at that. That is in there. But yeah, what you were touching on is crucial and so powerful. And, being able to sit with the pain, sit with, the things that we don't like about ourselves or whatever it is that's trying to speak with us to get our attention. Most of the time we want to just push it away, push it in the background, stuff it down, not feel it, all the whatever emotions are coming up around it. But eventually the bill comes due, right? And it's going to come due in one way or another as a maybe an emotional crisis in your life or physical pain and disease, however it's going to manifest. And so I think, what you're hitting on is a very important point and a very important part of the deconditioning process, would you say?
Sorry, can you
Yeah.
repeat that one more time?
The deconditioning. What you're hitting on in sitting with it, sitting with all the uncomfortable bits of our shadow, of our not self, that is, would you say that's probably the most important part of the deconditioning process? I mean, it pretty much is the deconditioning process, right?
Mhm. Well, also there's an element of what to see underneath it all. Like we're taught a lot of there's a lot of I have friends in social work. I have friends that are therapists, and I love talking to them about this because they do a lot of work with other people on how to process, how to move through your emotions and how to move through anger, frustration, pain, disappointment, bitterness, all these feelings of resistance and things that come up, and how to process it and how to accept it and how to sit with it. And then there's this moment that I was just talking with a friend who's a social worker, and she was being critical of the system itself because they're taught to look at systems of oppression and to question them. And I have a very critical mind. I'm a critical thinker, so I love looking at and poking at these things about systems. So she was actually questioning the system of social work itself. Like, are we teaching people a way to just accept, move through and accept this feeling and then get right back to the conditioning of how to integrate back into being a productive, efficient figure of society, right? Instead of questioning and asking, why is this coming up? What's underneath it all? What's stirring this feeling inside of you? Because I think there's still a way of seeing these discomforts as a negative thing, as something that is a problem, a symptom of something wrong, something like a symptom of an illness. And the way I see it now is that this is a gift from your body. It's something to listen to and hear. And so when you're sitting with it and you can come to a place of understanding, of reading your body, hearing what it's telling you, and having that internal dialogue, that's that's the real wisdom and intelligence within yourself, to have that dialogue and say, what is causing this? There is something that's not flowing in my life that's causing this. And thank you, body, for telling me. Thank you, pain, for telling me. And if it's not just about you, if it's about your relationships, about your life and your connections with others, there's some amazing wisdom in that. And instead of just finding a way to move out these like discomforts, I'll just call them, because I don't find them to be negative, just how to release all the discomfort. Well, how about like really sitting in it and feeling it? Like, I guess this is also the artist in me. Like, I want to sit with the negative emotions just as much as the positive ones. I want to sit with the bitterness and taste it, however shitty it tastes, and really, you know, get to the bottom of it, because that's how you find your empowerment, and encouraging people to find their sovereignty instead of just depending on some other outer source to release them, to release them from this. Like, how do you actually empower people to see their own their own sovereignty and to really value their decision making and their true values? Because I see a lot of the burnout and depression and anxiety. It's come. Oh, am I still here?
All right. Well, let's continue from here. After our little uh, Wi-Fi issue, disconnection, got a little interrupted, but that's okay. Um, yeah. If I can, do you do you remember where we were at? You were talking about the where were you?
I think I was a let's see, I was talking about resistance and the
Okay.
symptoms of not self.
Yes. Oh, and you were mentioning the conversation with your friend, the therapist, and talking about the system and how people it's designed to kind of, or I guess the work has been people sitting with the emotion or the pain or the feelings, but not necessarily going deep into figuring out where it's coming from and what the body is trying to tell them with the symptom.
Mm. Yes, I love this analogy that we're using because the symptom would be the resistance, right? The experience of discomfort in the body, which for each aura type is different, right? It's bitterness, frustration, anger, disappointment. What are the symptoms of discomfort? And then right now we have a lot of systems that put a band-aid on that symptom and say, here's a band-aid, you're all patched up, go back out into your life the way it was. Whereas human design is the real medicine. You know, it's really like putting a looking glass up to what is the cause? You know, what is really causing this discomfort? Because the resistance and that you're experiencing is just showing where you're out of flow. There's a block. And something I see often and that I experience personally is thinking something's wrong with me. So realizing that there just might be something out of flow and out of alignment in my life and releasing the pressure that I just have to be better. I just have to improve myself and actually accepting that, oh, this is something to learn from. This is something to thank for like my body for telling me and to sit with and to look at my life and look at what's around me and what's occurring and just observe. And maybe there's some way to shift my perspective or shift uh, what I'm putting energy into, where I'm being drained, where I'm being pulled, that might be creating this disharmony in my body and the disharmony outside of me as well. So it's all about kind of matching, tuning your outer reality with your inner reality. And that is something that I see missing from a lot of these systems, a lot of these self awareness or healing systems of how do we really see where the cause is coming from. So, human design really helps you see that. There is so much depth and detail. And this is why you work and connect with professionals and other people in the field because they can see something that you might not see and really help determine that or at least, question those things. So you can find that within yourself and that's where that empowerment comes from. When you can see it and you can like realize that it's within your power, within your control to shift your own perspective and your own reality. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I was.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really good. I love that. And it's funny. I just recorded this video because I was thinking about this whole thing, and it keeps coming back to me that life should be easy. Life really should be easy, and I think most of us will have a resistance just to that idea because we're told like you got to struggle to make things happen. You gotta go after it, and it's not going to be easy. And yes, on one hand, struggles I think are good, right? There's obstacles, there's certain things that we're meant to overcome, challenges that we need to go through. But when I say life should be easy, it should be easy because we're going through our struggles, not somebody else's struggles, right? And whenever life isn't easy, the difficulties that I'm talking about is the resistance to being in the not self. to me, when it's not easy, it's because the universe is trying to get our attention and say, "Hey, you're not on your life path. You're not living your life path," and it's trying, and that resistance is trying to push you back into the direction of your life path where you can go and find your own challenges, your own struggles, the things that are meant for you to help you grow and become the person that you're supposed to be. And I had this in my mind, this vision. Have you ever played Mario Kart?
Oh, yeah.
You know, in Mario Kart, when you go off the track, you like really slow down, and the farther you go off track, it becomes like just drudgery to try to get back on. You're like, dang it. That's the resistance that I'm talking about. And it's like you slow down because you're not on the right track. You're not following your, geometry, as we would call it in human design. You're not following this life path that you chose. I believe that we choose, before we incarnate here, what we're supposed to be doing, the challenges that we want to overcome. And when we are on that, in my own experience, challenges are actually easy. They're easy in the sense of that they're enjoyable to experience, Maybe in the moment we get lost in it and we can, we get lost in the drama, lost in the sauce, so to speak. But uh yeah, in the end we're like, "Oh, wow, look at that challenge." That really
Mhm.
helped me to come into myself. And I think too, the resistance obviously has its place, right? And we can look back and be thankful that the resistance was there because we'll eventually learn a lesson from it. But we don't necessarily have to face that type of resistance. Um, yeah. So, what has been your experience with resistance? I guess personally, does that analogy resonate with you? First of all,
Oh, yeah. I love that analogy to Mario Kart. That makes it so fun, and it's I just wanna recognize that wisdom coming from you, from your third line and your innocence and just the way of being able to have humility and have approach life with a kind of laughter and a kind of ease because there is a quality in in a person's being when they are humbled by life, right? And they have that acceptance for life that they can see things with more of this kind of light quality, this lifted quality, because there is so much wisdom in this quote from Buddha that we are not the body, but we do have to live in it. In this incarnation, we chose to be here in this body. So the only way is through. The only way is going through what you're going through and to really take things that come your way and challenge you with that playful attitude. Like that's just bringing the childlike quality back. And also how it does take quite a state of being evolved and being able to sit again with discomfort and in presence to really embrace what's coming at you and to see that there might be a lesson in it. And that takes life experience, that takes uh, observing and reflecting on your life experience, like your channel of abstraction. I can just see it. And how beautiful that I was looking at your design, of course. And in your incarnation cross, it's beautiful that you have on your personality side this awareness, right? This awareness to reflect on your past and your memories and your experiences, and this awareness emotionally, while also in your design side, in your body, you have this pull to connect, right? And to gather others and connect and to reach out and really bring people together with what you're experiencing and observing. And it's through your life trials and through getting to that quality, that peaceful presence, that playful presence, that is just such a gift and such a lovely combination for a projector to have and a splenic projector to have. So um, I love hearing about that, and I want to take a moment to recognize that and thank you for bringing that to my attention.
yeah. Thank you. That was
Yeah, and your
beautiful.
question about resistance, like I resonate so much with that. I'm so grateful for uh, having a third line phase, and now I'm in my on the roof phase, and I have a lot of respect for third line body experiences because it is tough. There's a lot of bumping into life and a lot of learning the hard way, right? And I think that's the best gift in guidance to share with someone is like, I tried it. I'll tell you about it, but we can also laugh about it because we've been through it. And there's a level of that in other places in my life, in recovery, in social work, in connecting with people. You have to have that. You have to have the fumbling around and the stories to laugh about because life can't just be this very serious bubble. Like we're not just under a microscope and we're just being, you know, um, watched for every move and being like we're taught to like maneuver in the right way. And I think this is my guilt motivation very much wants to go fix all the little things. But it's such a valuable reminder for me, like showing me the value of just embracing the perfection in everything and that there really isn't anything to fix. It's just to see, just to notice it. And to see as a projector is to love. That's how we offer our love to others. So,
Mm,
what a beautiful gift.
yeah, I love that. Never thought about it like that before. Yeah, to see others is to love them. Yeah, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right? With the projector aura going right to the G center, the center for love and direction. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I think about that from a perspective as an artist because I love the book To See is to Love Again. And I just was seeing that title of that book when I was saying that because it's about painting, to really see something that you're painting, you're not just seeing the outside of it, you're seeing through it. And that
Mm,
is the most projector way of seeing the world. Um, yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's cool. That reminds me too of there's a I think it was one of Buddha's teachings. To if you love something, he used the analogy of a flower. It's like if you love a flower, you just witness it and you love it. You don't
Mhm.
pluck it and take it because as soon as you do that, it's gonna die. You might be able to keep it alive for a little bit in a vase with some water, but eventually, that that plucking it, the trying to hold on to it, the trying to attach to it is ultimately not love because, you're taking it out of its environment. You're more selfishly pulling into it instead of just witnessing it, seeing it, enjoying it for what it is and where it is, and the interaction that you get to have with it in that moment, being grateful for that. So I think there's a lot of wisdom in that that definitely overlaps with human design.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, really
That
cool.
also overlaps with what you asked about resistance because it touches on like what is attachment
Right.
and how to detach, like how to love without attachment. This has been a really big journey for me, having a completely open G. I've been very obsessed and learning a lot about love and direction, and how to love, how to find love for myself, and a spiritual love. Really, like I just resonate with the G center as being like the God center. Like, how do you find that within each of ourselves? We have that tether to something greater. The
Yeah.
web of being, the higher power or the web of all, whatever your belief is, the way that we connect and the source of energy. So how to connect with that source. And this has been one of the most painful areas of my life, but also the deepest gift to come to that. And a lot of my journey with resistance has been around letting go. Yeah, just learning to let go and learning to detach and to yeah, not being attached to outcomes, not having expectations, um, not needing to have some kind of validation or security from the other person or the situations in my life, and to just embrace what is. Big challenge, but that has helped me move through a lot of my bitterness, which is, the projector form of resistance showing up in our
Yeah.
lives. So life tastes a lot sweeter when you can live from a place of love. And the difference between loving uh, being in love or loving. I really like that difference of just being a loving person is
Right.
embodying that love.
Yeah. Yeah, to be love, not in it, but you are it,
Mm,
and at the core, we all are love embodied. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, yeah, letting go of the resistance, right? I mean, that's one of my favorite quotes from Ross, surrender to the form, the form principle of just like surrender to life, surrender to where this body wants to go. And that is one of the hardest things, getting out of the mind, letting the mind surrender what it thinks needs to happen or wants to happen, and just watching life unfold. But it's also one of the most exciting places to be, when you're like, okay, can I just live in a way where I wake up every day and just allow life to surprise me and, you know, what's going to happen today? Like, where do I go? Like, no preconceptions of the mind, trying to make a decision of like, what is my life going to look like? And it's fine for it to do that, right? It's fine for it to do its analyzing and calculating and whatever, seeing the game, but really, truly still being surrendered fully every day. I think that's where we can let a lot of that bitterness and that resistance go, is just being able to surrender. And I'm at a place in my life right now where life has really kind of just taken me to a place where I don't really have any other choice, because I just am like, okay, I don't have anything to do. I don't know what to do. I can't do anything about where I am currently. So I just have to trust that everything will work out, and that I'm here in the place that I'm at for a reason. And can I just be surprised by whatever that reason is, instead of trying to
mm.
calculate, oh, well, because I'm here, I'm a failure. I'm currently, I don't know if you know, but I'm currently staying back with my mom again at 38, had to surrender to, okay, whatever feelings come up about that, feeling like a failure or, whatever. Um, and then learning a lot of lessons of allowing myself to be supported and, whatever that looks like, and realizing there was a lot of deeper internal work that I needed to do that brought me back here and has really been beautiful, what I've experienced so far. So, yeah, like your mind never quite knows what's going to happen. It wants to try to predict it, but if you allow yourself to surrender and be surprised by life, then it'll be far better than you can ever imagine. And I think that is one of the biggest gifts that human design can give you. Like you were saying, it's a map, and it helps our map or helps our mind to be more comfortable with surrendering, because it's like, oh, okay, there is something there. I don't have to try to figure it out. It's just there, and that's just how it works.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. It's exactly, I totally agree. And it's also important to remember that it is a map for the mind and it's a knowledge based system that is mental. So there is a little bit of a trick involved, like not to get too mental, like not to make mental decisions because you looked at your design and you think it should go a certain way, which I have done many times. So, I'm always humbled by that when I make a mental decision because I see, oh, my design is this way. I think it's supposed to go this way. So it's it makes life fun, like a fun game with yourself of looking back and saying, okay, well, did I just make that up? Or am I really following my truth and my inner authority and my strategy? So it shows us this map, but we really do have to navigate it like by embodying what we see. And especially for a splenic being, like so much trust is involved in that and so much openness is required for that. And I also I just went through a period of time where I had to move home, and I lived with my mom, and it was amazing. And I definitely recognize that moment of, uh, being challenged by the way others see you, because others want to see success in a certain way. That is the conditioning of success. We are taught that it looks a certain way. And for every projector, because that's our signature, we are on a journey toward what is our personal success. And it's definitely not going to be how you're taught. It's only going to come from what that is for you, from your life experiences. What do you need for success to occur? And it's not one size fits all. Like every projector is learning this, like how to invest your energy in things that really like allow you to shine. And like, what does that investment look like? Is that other people investing in you? Is that support? Is that like, what do you have to let go of and sacrifice that is holding you back from your personal success? And usually it is part of the conditioned package of success, which, obviously looks like money and material things. But I love that we have mentioned Buddha many times. And I just like to think about the wealth of abundance that comes from within, right? So, like, projector abundance comes from awareness, like the abundance of awareness. And like this, we keep talking about the present state of presence and the state of being because it's so important to this process to not just have the mental image of your design when you look at it, but to actually trust and involve yourself in the experiment. And like, I'm just hearing like the risk involved because I know we're both splenic and I know it's risky, to like really trust and to have faith in yourself in making these big decisions and these big sacrifices. But I know it's rewarding. So I love hearing this from you and just being open about this because uh, it's important to let other people know that it's not going to make sense to other people. Sometimes they're going to think, oh, why are you doing it this way? Why are you leaving that position? Why are you moving home? Why are you doing this and that? But you have to have faith in yourself. So,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is a big one. Yeah, and the risk for sure. I'd love to go more into the projector experience because I think it's so important. There's so many projectors out there right now that are, feeling trapped maybe in where they're at, feeling like they can't be themselves or live their design or how, they're supposed to or how they're designed to live. And I don't really necessarily recommend that everybody, just goes and quits their job, to rest and be live the projector life. I think you have to follow your own strategy and authority, right? But for me, last year, was it last year or the year before? I came to a place where I wasn't necessarily working like a full-time job. I hadn't been for a while, but I was working a lot trying to, pay the bills and take care of my family and just coming to a point of realizing, oh, if I don't, because I had been kind of dabbling in, at that point, I've been kind of just dabbling in human design, gotten a little bit more deeper into it. And I had resistance to the projector, a lot of manifesting generator conditioning. All three of my siblings are manifesting generators. My mom's a generator, so I was like the only projector here. And anyway,
what an honor.
I got to a point where I realized, okay, if I don't really experiment with this and try to see what it looks like to actually live like a projector, I feel like I'm gonna get sick or die at this point. That's really what I felt. And so I was like, okay, I
Mm,
have to commit to this. I have to really experiment with living this way to see, because up until that point, like everything I have done, I have not achieved success, in the way that I feel is successful if I look at my life. And so over the last couple of years, like really just I've been up and down, but I've gotten into deep into my experiment of like where there were months at a time where I'm like, I'm doing nothing. But it wasn't a mental choice. It was like my body is literally doing nothing. Like I try, Like my mind would come at me and try to like, oh, you got to do something, but it would just be like, no, we're just laying around in the hammock today. We're just gonna lay out in the grass today. I would do little things here and there, but for the most part, it was radically different than I had ever lived my life, and it was, it's been a good lesson for me to really see that even through all that, like I'm still here. I'm still taken care of. Things got taken care of. It may not look like other people's ideas of success or even my idea of where I want to go, which looks successful, right? But it's part of the process. And it's teaching my mind every day that, okay, I am safe. It is safe to live this way. It is safe to allow myself to rest. It is safe to allow my body to lead me and to guide me, even when it seems crazy and it seems like, maybe I'm lazy or whatever. So I would like to know what has been your projector experience through that, through learning to maybe what does it look like to allow yourself to rest? And um, I don't know, did you have any I know you said you quit your job a couple times. So was there like that radicalness of like, okay, I'm just done. I'm just gonna sit around and wait for the invitation? Or how did that play out for you?
Wow, thank you. Yeah, this is so important. This crucial, like what you said about your body allowing your body to feel safety in changing the way you live. Like there is safety in rest. I could not rest without feeling guilty before, without feeling shame. That's how much I was conditioned to do all the time and output all the time. And I mean, I felt so much like anger and disappointment when I realized I wasn't a manifesting generator, um, because I had built a lot of vision for my life that looked very different than what it is now. And I do not want to go back to that. That that is a different version of me. That was just one of the many versions. And it is so important to get to a place where you are so uncomfortable doing nothing until you can finally get through the boundary of you're not doing nothing, realizing that your cells are moving and they're shedding, like they are shedding and rebuilding every minute. Your body is constantly working. And to realize that in the nothingness, that you are always doing something, that you are always sensitive to sensing something in the world around you, whether it be the connections you have or the collective energies. There is always some awareness moving, especially for projectors, that it's so important in this projector deconditioning to take the time. And of course, that is a privilege at first. I felt like, how is this possible to take time to do nothing in today's economy? Like I'm independent. Like I have to support myself. And I also, there was a very strong message of projectors are not here to work, and also projectors need to be alone in their own aura. So that for me, for a very long time, like years, it's been a balancing act of, if I want to be in my own aura, then I have to be able to afford to live on my own. So I either get to be in my own aura and work really hard, a job that pays me really well, or I don't work and I have to go live with other people and I don't get to be in my own aura. So it was this constant balancing act that was kind of keeping me in uh, like instability. My nervous system was very on alert and in survival mode. And that is a dangerous spot for a splenic projector, to always be in survival mode, because we need to learn how to be able to like regulate our nervous system, and to just embrace, where we're at. So, and to like listen to the signs of our body. So we have to have a lot of that time to sit with the nothingness and sit with the discomfort of not doing enough and not being enough, not being productive enough for other people, and then realize that it's actually what we think about ourselves. Like this is part of the any person with an undefined sacral, an open sacral is going to have to face this reality. Like what do you do? Where do you put your energy? What does it mean to do things in the world? And this has been like the greatest gift to me. Like I was invited into a place in my life where I lived in a very remote area. I became very isolated and it was very shocking for me. But I went into a period of time where I was literally alone in the dark. And I had to sit with myself. It was very uncomfortable. It was very shattering. And I constantly was trying to get out of it. But now I see how important that was for me because I had to find the light just in myself and I had to find the light of spirituality. I found, that even when I'm alone, I'm never alone. Like I love that alone is all one, like just the
Yeah.
word. And that was something I would not have found unless I was broke, I was desperate, I was going through a breakup, I had quit my job, and I was living in a tent in the woods.
Wow.
And I have absolutely no shame in that because it changed my life. And if not everyone has the, you know, the ability to go do that, to get that radical with their lives, to not reach out. Like I was not reaching out to anyone. I was waiting for the invitation to the extreme. Um, Very radical with my experiment during that time. And for folks that don't have that kind of privilege to just, get up and go change your life like that, I do recommend a camping trip though. If you can, go be in nature by yourself. If you can do that for at least a couple days, even longer would be better because there is something so amazing about being with
Mm.
nature, alone with nature, and realizing how connected we really are and how, you know, like there's just such a reset there. This is for every type, any type to just go be with your aura, like surrounded by trees and dirt and the just beauty and magic of the world around us. That is medicine. So, and it can help you see yourself. It can help you see what you're really facing underneath all of the other noise that we want to blame this. I want to blame my job. I want to blame my relationship. I want to blame other people or myself for not doing things this like in a way that works. But when you are alone with yourself, you really see where it's coming from. And that requires compassion and openness. That we need to be compassionate with ourselves because the human design journey, like looking at all of your shadows in order to appreciate all of your gifts, it is challenging at times. It is not an easy path at first, but it becomes easier to live. And that's why it's worth it to go through with all of this, it's worth it to look and see all of this.
Mm. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. That's one of my favorite things to do is like I try to get out in nature in some capacity every day for at least a little bit, to be in my own aura, to be in the aura of the trees and yeah, take in the air and yeah, just there's so much to learn, and if we aren't familiarizing ourselves with what our aura is away from everybody else, then we're not going to be able to differentiate that from everybody else's conditioning, right? We're not going to know what is actually us when we're in the middle of a crowd. So it's very, very important. I actually, a couple of years ago, I went out and I went out into the mountains all by myself. It was like the first time I went into the wild to camp by myself. And I was like, okay, this is something I've wanted to do for a long time. I'm facing the fear of like being alone in the wild, and not having anybody else around. And I also decided that I was going to face my internal fears, and I took 5 grams of mushrooms that night and did a ceremony, and was hit with a lot of things, including like, oh my gosh, how am I going to survive out here, like I was struggling to get like a fire started and it was great. I learned a lot through that just like coming into myself. And yeah. uh, even if you don't have the plant medicine with you, going outside, getting alone for a couple days in nature, that is some powerful medicine just in and of itself. So yeah, highly recommend that. That's great. So in your journey as a projector, um, coming into your own and who you are and understanding that and shedding the all of the conditioning, what is one thing that you would highlight as being as that you really love about being a projector that really stands out to you?
Mm, only one thing.
Just yeah, whatever. More if you want, but like
Mm,
what's one thing that's standing out right now?
well, this is something that I used to get a lot of criticism for and not love about myself. And now I really do. But getting lost in the other person, just
Mm,
totally absorbed, just completely. This used to cause me a lot of trouble before I understood what was happening and the mechanics of what was happening. And now it is so amazing to me. Like, I really, really love getting lost in another person and really feeling what they're feeling and being with them just in whatever they're sharing, whatever frequency of their state is. Um, it's like an adventure, an energetic adventure. Like, I'm just like in your world saying hello and experiencing you. And that is like, it's truly magic in action. And I think there's a lot of, at first misunderstanding about how that works. So it's something really beautiful. The penetrative moment, like if you can be aligned with someone and be invited into it and just fully surrender to like diving into another person, like just stare at them until you forget that you exist and you are just totally in there. It's magical, and it's such a gift for the other person if they can also, open up to that as well.
do you think that has something to or do you think maybe for you that it's enhanced by the completely open G center?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Um, this is actually a big part of my choice to uh, go down the road with recovery and sobriety because I found that with the enhancement of substances, I would get extra lost. I
Mm,
would just completely lose sight of myself and be completely with another person in a state of like lack of awareness. Like I could not hear my the wisdom in my spleen and I was just totally immersed like in another person's reality. So becoming comfortable with this sober, it offers me the capacity to take in and to observe and to also remain sovereign and like understand my boundaries and understand what's happening because I have the mental capacity and I'm not like inebriated.
yeah.
I think I do have to say I'm grateful for all of the experiences that I've had with substances because it taught me uh, how to lose control, like how to let go of control of your
Mm,
body. And I'm not just talking about with alcohol, but how to like let something else into your system to like take over and sit back and watch. And I think that makes me more capable of that now in my sober state to still tap into that state of openness.
wow. That's cool. That reminds me of a time when, I was realizing I think I was probably smoking cannabis at the time, but I was realizing like, oh, I'm not just smoking this substance. I'm taking the spirit of this substance and taking it into my body and it's interacting with me and it's yeah, I'm having a relationship with it. I'm interacting with the energy that it brings, and it's altering my energy in some way, and now it's becoming a third thing, right? And it was like, oh, so anything, oh, we could do that with food, alcohol, marijuana, and we could do it with relationships. We're taking that other person into our body, into our energy, and we're interacting with it in some way.
Mm.
And so hearing you talk about it like that just is so beautiful to see, and that experience, because I have a similar experience. I have an open G center, but I have two dormant gates. So I guess I'm a little more narrow in how I experience the G center through those two specific gates. But yeah, like I've had that too, where my last relationship with my ex-wife, it was like so lost in the other person, over time that uh, my identity kind of got wrapped up in who the other person was, and it was all about, them trying to, getting lost in basically who they were and living my life for the other person and forgetting, who I am and what I like to do and, what my needs are and letting that be a balanced relationship. And yeah, so I guess bringing awareness to that too, of needing, like you were saying, it's like, okay, I need to know who I am, but then allowing myself to get lost in the other person is a beautiful thing. So how do you now maintain awareness of that when you are getting lost?
Good question. Because it's still gonna happen, right? Like,
Yeah,
we're still gonna get conditioned, we're still gonna get lost in others, but it's not a bad thing. Like, I love what you're saying about, it makes me think of just tasting other people. Like, we are taking them in and tasting
yeah,
them and digesting, but it doesn't mean you need to eat that meal all the time, all day,
yeah.
every day. It might make you sick eventually. For me, like, I've needed to embrace my fluidity, my fluidity in my identity, in my love languages, in my relationships. This was a challenging road for me. I had a lot of challenges with relationships that wanted to keep me like the same, like fixed. They wanted me to be fixed and consistent and safe and to keep mirroring them because I found that often people would love things about me that were just reflections of themselves, which is amazing. But that can be challenging when you're living with a partner every day because they are seeing you in a certain lens because with another person you become who you are together, a third entity. So they were never really seeing me. So being around people that love me, that see and understand this fluidity has really helped me become more confident in who I am and accept the beauty in that. And also just in the modern days, the acceptance of, gender and sexual fluidity has been amazing just to have more conversations and more awareness around that. This was a very challenging thing for me growing up. So
Mm,
to talk about. So it's very out in the open now, which I really appreciate, and also talking to people that know both, this kind of thing and human design kind of thing, and they see me and they witness me and they see that I don't have selfish intentions with my fluidity. I'm just flowing. I'm just flowing and there's something beautiful in it for the other person and that can be a great advantage for them. So there's mutual respect that needs to happen. So that's how I deal with these things in my daily life is there mutual respect? Is there mutual recognition? Are they really understanding where I'm coming from so that I can have that freedom to get lost in them and they taste good. I can take in their energy and it tastes good and it tastes sweet and they also respect that like I'm going to go take my time alone, or I'm going to go focus on someone else and be with them. And for them to not get, jealous or want to keep my attention for just them. That has been a big challenge in close relationships. So the friends and family that are close with me now, I have become better at communicating this. And I have such a beautiful relationship with the few quality people that really see and understand me, and a lot of the other ones have fallen away. I used to
mm,
have a lot of acquaintances and a lot of friends, and I have stopped uh, taking the time and energy to give them my attention. And that's totally okay with me now. It was challenging for a while, going through my period of radical projector life. There was a lot of bitterness. Why aren't they reaching out? Why don't they want my attention? And now I'm so okay with not spreading my attention all over the place, because when I am invited to have a tea time with a friend, I can give them 100% of my attention, and it is so appreciated because I've taken all that time and space to be with myself and to not be bitter being with myself, so that when I'm there with my friends, they feel that 100% attention and they want it and they ask for it and something amazing comes out of it. And this reminds me of a post you just made about the projector invitation being a protection, not just for other people. Like, you're not just protecting them from being penetrated into, but it's also a protection for you, because I did not have that before. I did not have boundaries around my openness, and I took in so much that was hurting me. So now I only take in what I'm invited to take in, and I can handle that. I have the capacity for that because I'm rested. And what I can give to someone who's inviting me to, like, dive into them is beautiful. It is. And like it really takes that amount of rest, because we are absorbing other people. I think that's important for everyone to understand, is how much we absorb other people, to taste what's going on in their lives and to offer them something that can radically change their lives in one conversation over tea, you know?
Yeah.
It's like it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I always love Raw when he talked about, would you put that person on a fork and eat them? If you
Yes.
if not, then, just stay away. It's ugh, use that as like a guidepost. I love that. Um, yeah, I think you know, yeah, I just made that video because I was realizing I had just had an experience where I was like, people are having this conversation and my channel of judgment was like bringing up some stuff that I was like, oh, I should really say this. But I got the energy I was feeling. I was like, wait a minute, I'm not invited to share my opinion right now. And, it's not going to be heard. And also, it was really a, what I was seeing wasn't even a critique of what they were talking about. It was a critique of how they were having the conversation, and because they were talking about another person. It was basically like they were talking about another person and how they didn't agree with how that person was choosing to live their life. And I was just like, okay, whatever. But then I realized, like, oh, if I go in uninvited into this conversation, then I'm kind of just like getting caught up in the negativity of what I'm seeing as wrong and what I'm judging. And then I'm allowing that to absorb in and kind of bring me down to a level that I didn't want to be in. And so I kind of just, with no judgment, trying to pull back from the judgment of them and just be like, okay, I don't need to be involved in this. Like they're gonna be where they're at, and until they're ready, then they might invite me in, and then I can choose to bring my awareness to that situation. But if I were to go in and just butt in, and and and
Mhm.
do it, I'm gonna face so much resistance because they're gonna be like, we didn't ask your opinion, That's not even what we were talking about. Because I'm over here seeing like the wider, perspective of the conversation, and they're so focused on something else that they're probably not even gonna understand where I'm coming from. So yeah,
Mhm.
that was
Yeah.
such a beautiful experience for me to understand that. Yeah.
And so much of like I've had similar situations like that, and what I'm hearing in it is, in the moment of waiting, you're recognizing your value of what you wanna share with them, like what you see in the larger observation and the larger pattern, and, what you have to share, and just seeing your own value and waiting. Like, that's what the waiting is. It's so delicious and so empowering when you can start to recognize your own value and your own awareness. And like, I'm saying this to myself too. I'm saying this to everyone, right? Like, it really does start with recognizing your own worth. So it's a teaching that, um, I've gotten this teaching from my best friend who has that channel of transmission as well, and the channel of judgment. And it's such a like interesting combination and such a beautiful like heart transmission. Like it's felt, just being in the room with people with your energy. It is totally felt, and it's such a gift to have like just that wisdom. Like I feel valued being around that. And like, so you might have this experience in your life too, where like certain people will see that and they will ask you, they will see like, oh, there's something going on. You're hesitate, like you're thinking about something and I want to hear it. And they'll ask you for it. And like, it lands differently. It really does because like their hearts are open. Like my heart is open to that. I always want more, you know?
Yeah. While you were talking, a memory came up that like a long time ago before I even knew about human design. I remember I was actually starting to learn to kind of just sit in my like if I was in a group and there was a conversation going on, like I kind of naturally became to a place where I was like, oh, I'm just going to observe. And everyone would always say like how quiet I was and, didn't really talk a lot. And I remember this one conversation, someone asked, well, what do you think? And it was just like, I just laid it out what I thought. And someone was like, wow, like you don't really talk that much, but when you do, it's really powerful. And I was like, oh, thank you.
So perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yes, it's the people that are ready, they will see. They will see and they will invite.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is true. What I'm learning, especially in this moment, and really learning to hold myself back, even dealing like even yesterday, I was feeling this urgency in my mind and feeling the energy even in my body of like, oh, I got to do something. I got to make something happen. You know, I've had an exciting couple of weeks of just my own breakthroughs and realizations and downloads, and now my mind's like, all right, now we can do something. Now we can, now we can make it happen because I got all this new information. And so I'm like trying to hold myself back a little bit or just at least wait and realize, okay, I don't want to act out of that energy of urgency, right? Of like, oh, I need to do something or else it's not going to happen. Um, but realizing in the waiting how much has come to me, and how much has, when I've allowed myself the rest, when I've allowed myself to just be and contemplate and do the work, the inner work. Like, yeah, I've received a lot. I've done a lot of healing, and I have more clarity now than I have had. Would you say, in your experience, that that's really what the waiting periods are for, the resting periods are for? Do you know what I
Mm.
mean?
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. You're really bringing up this acknowledgement that's needed for the distance between awareness to expression. Um, there is distance there. And in that distance, that is part of that journey of just sitting back and looking out the window that Ra talks about. Especially being an awareness type, like it doesn't just come out and get expressed and get manifested, right? Like it doesn't just the moment you have it, it's not output. It's not do something, it's not take action. Sometimes it's just simmer it on the stove for a while, it's like a really good soup. And you just really good soup that you just leave it to simmer and it'll just get better over time. So that's something I've grown to appreciate with the periods of waiting because I will have downloads all the time that just keep coming back. And I used to think, oh, if I don't grab it, it's going to leave me and it's going to go. And part of my experience embodying my design has been trusting that it will come in the moment and I can't plan it. I can't prepare it. I can't, make it ahead of time. and any of that because I have individuality to the throat that's just going to come out right when it needs to. And it has to be completely open. That moment, I have to surrender to whatever wants to come out and surrender to what I thought I was going to say, what I want to say. Any of those things, any of those mental perceptions have to be released to I don't know, and it's coming out. And as soon as I hear the words that came out of my mouth, then I know. And that I used to be terrified, you know, of public speaking and terrified of that moment. And now I welcome it because I've experimented with it. I've seen it in action. And those are the things you learn about yourself, and you learn about how your awareness comes out through your own unique design. So, yeah, facing the fear, facing the uncertainty uh, in the moment, and also like in all of the time I'm waiting, I'm like preparing myself for that, getting prepared to be prepared for that moment to come up. Um, and a lot of that is, yeah, resting. A lot of that is my own practice. Like I meditate a lot and I learn a lot. I focus on my interests. I read a lot. I listen to a lot of things. I try not to do too much, but I'm creative. So sometimes there's some art involved in there. And I connect with people a lot whenever the invitation comes up and whenever it's aligned. And I have friends that I can reach out to that there is an open invitation. My fellow projectors, especially, like I'll reach out to them, because we aren't meant to do this completely alone. There are moments where we're alone because it's for our own cultivation. It's like we are that flower again. Just the sun is just shining on us. Maybe we're not blooming at the moment, but the sun is shining and we're about to. And someone will walk by and see us in that perfect moment, full bloom. And that's what we're waiting for. And it's beautiful.
Mhm.
Like, just enjoy the time waiting and relax, you know? Ugh.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's like, when we're if you're in that flower, excuse me, you're that flower or the plant, and it's like you're looking around and you're like, why don't I have flowers yet? All these other plants around me have flowers. Do you think the plant that, an actual plant is doing that, or are they just comfortable? They're just waiting, they're just growing until the time when their own flowers bloom, and it might look different than all the other flowers. And that's a good thing, right? Because you know,
Yeah, I love
the
that.
yeah, all the uniqueness, yeah. Um, I also wanted to ask you because you had mentioned earlier about, having to or a lot of your relationships kind of falling away when you were stepping more into your projector essence and how important that was for you. And I was, or how important your relationships are for you or how difficult it was to let them go. And I was thinking like, yeah, I can see that, but I'm trying to think of even my own experience, how many relationships that I've just naturally let fall away, and it hasn't been like a huge bother to me. And I know that's part of the third line experience of just, bonding and what is it? Breaking bonds
Yeah.
and
Bonds
uh
made and broken.
yeah, bonds made and
Yeah.
broken. And so I was like, "Oh, yeah." For me, it's more about the interaction in some capacity where I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I do wanna interact with people, I wanna talk with people if that's correct." And obviously, I have a couple core friends that are, really important to me but, we don't interact all the time either. It's kind of like this every once in a while thing, at least for right now where we're at in our stage in life. So as a 4-6, that especially the line 4, where your community, your immediate network is crucial to you. Yeah, how does that I guess, Well, I know there's a question there, and it's slipping my mind.
I mean, I can just go
Yeah,
from
yeah.
that
Yeah,
because
yeah, go
there's
on for it.
so much. This has been such a teaching for me. Like, thank you for asking this because it is something that was so painful for a fourth line as a 4-6 to go into Saturn return and to change so much and for people to just fall out of my life was so painful because my fourth line was, if you go with the flower analogy still, I was being watered by my friends. I got all my invitations from my friends, and it was a lifeline for me. That's how I survived, and to not have that, to all of a sudden feel very cut off. They just weren't reaching out, weren't inviting me, and I lived in a very remote, isolated place. And I was getting radical with my uh, waiting for the invitation. So I was very isolated, and I felt like I was not being fed, like I was being starved. And I think that's a really big deal. That there was a lot of depression there. So it was a hard time for me, and I look back and I'm grateful because it showed me who my real friends really are. Because even completely by myself in the woods, no running water or electricity, I would get a text from a childhood friend checking in on me that hasn't seen me in years. Like I was off Instagram for a year, I was off all social media, and I would still get reached out to. So I still felt like there were people that cared that I had thought of, and I kind of sent out my thoughts about them and they ended up reaching out. So there is still something in that, even though at the time it felt like misery, but it was the right thing for me to do at that period of time. Um, because I needed to learn like who my real network is and why I had been surrounding myself with all these people that were giving me invitations that maybe weren't the right invitations anymore. They had expired. And it was nothing wrong with me. I felt like a lot of low self-esteem at first and a lot of doubt in human design. And the thing that really saved me in those times was making connections with other people that are into human design. And because I didn't have social media, I went to a conference. I went to a human design conference and I made connections there. One of the connections I made is my best friend, who I talk to almost every day, who's a fellow splenic projector and really sees me. We can really see each other. And that was a moment of my fourth line coming in and saying, hey, let's make some new network connections that are aligned, that are going to give you the right invitations. And I just trusted my spleen and went to the conference, and I'm reopening and reaching out again on social media, but I needed that time to close off and cocoon. And this is part of, I think, that process of going from a third line, more resilient way of being into this on the roof aloof phase. It was very much a nesting, a cocooning moment for me because I had that resilience before. I I could very easily move on with my life before, and then I all of a sudden felt so sensitive. And I would get like I couldn't get over the hangover, the hangover from people that weren't aligned for me or the hangover from living life out of alignment. I just couldn't handle it anymore. So like I had to get clean, like I had to isolate.
Yeah.
And it's funny to think about it like that because it really was. So I'm sharing this because it was really dark times for me. And reaching out in my own way was so important. Making connections with people I could really talk to about what I was going through was so important. And I really want to extend my hand to anyone listening who feels that way right now. You hear people on podcasts, you see people on social media. If you are having a urge or a response or like something inside of you is telling you to reach out, that's part of your process of trusting. So I encourage you to reach out because I really appreciate when I'm reached out to, like by you, Ben, like reaching out to me. Like I really appreciate that because that is you trusting in your process, your inner process, and like what an amazing connection we're having right now. So like thank you for that and thank you for trusting that and yeah, like connecting. That is really the medicine to moving forward with our lives and moving through these great transformations.
Amazing. Yeah, so well said. Um, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, where can we go from here? I have so many other questions and things I want to talk to you about, but I know I think we're almost coming up on 2 hours now. And then I feel like we could keep talking all day. But I want to respect your time and I'll have to maybe we could do another one in the future.
I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be great. You have so much wisdom inside of you waiting to come out, and I just feel that channel of structuring, taking all of your experience that you've gone through and putting it out into the world in a very unique way, that I certainly wasn't expecting. I was surprised by. I mean, I was expecting good stuff, but I'm still surprised by what you brought to the table. So thank you for sharing that and allowing that to come through.
Thank you. Thank you for making this space for us to connect because also you are bringing your energy to the table and, we're connecting together right now. And I really appreciate that, making this platform and this space and, sharing your abstraction too. I feel like it's just coming right through that channel of structuring and out, so we can really get a lot, there's a lot flowing right now. So, yeah, thank you for that as well.
Yeah, you're welcome. One last question I have for you. What is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything?
Well, based off of what we've been talking about, I'm going to say love.
Yes. Yes.
Love is the answer.
Love is the answer.
As cheesy as it sounds, like it is the most amazing feeling in the world. And like the success, the sweetness of success that I feel is a feeling of just love, pure love. And that to me is the meaning of human existence, to find that in our lifetime.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's beautiful. Well, Colin, thank you. If anybody wanted to work with you, connect with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, I have a website, which I'll give you the link to. It's collynrayne.com. So you can check out my website. I offer readings, foundation analysis, several different kinds of one-on-one readings that you can check out there. And I'm also on Instagram. So Collyn Rayne on Instagram. And I'm also working on a collaborative project with my friends and fellow human design professionals. We have a platform called Empowered by My Design. So that is something that is growing and flourishing where we can connect and encourage others that are, in their process of deconditioning and accepting their designs. So we're just working on that right now. My best friend, Ruti Chelli, who's a fellow splenic projector, is facilitating that group with me. So keep an eye out for that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much again for coming on the show. And yeah, I look forward to continued conversations in the future.
Thank you. Have a beautiful, meaningful day.